The 9th day of August 2025. This is Drumshambo, Mise, Eire. I haven't studied this too much. It was brought to my attention by another campaigner, well known. There's no need to mention the person here. Mise, Eire is an Irish cultural organisation, I think, which promotes Irish culture. I'm not a member, I don't know much about it, but I would support its general aims in that we preserve our traditions, our Irish language, in a way that keeps our country right and the way we want it. Remember, we are in a war. Not many people believe this. This is a war, and I've explained that many ways. It's a war of words and a war of thought, in which the government are all woke, in which the people failed to stopped voting for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael in the last election, and independents come sneaking up on the inside. People thought they were getting something different, and 8 of them sided with the government. So if you look at, for example, the Healy-Raes and Kerry, they are eating out of the Fianna Fáil trough. They're really Fianna Fáilers in many ways, though slightly different. But when a Hardy come to Hardy, they joined with the government. They didn't stay outside. And Michael Healy-Rae is involved in the government as an agricultural minister. Now, he would argue that he's doing good things there. And I won't say he's not. But there were a number of others, there's at least 6 others voted with the government. My point is not that they didn't go into coalition. It's that they exacted no price. They clapped the government on the back. They took up where Eamon Ryan left off. They continued the mass migration. And so, just as Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are traitors, and Sinn Féin are bigger traitors, so these independents are also traitors. Now, the thing is, there was an event scheduled for the Mayflower Ballroom in Drumshambo, and everyone thought it was ongoing, and it was suddenly cancelled when pressure was brought to bear on somebody. I don't know who owns the hall, who runs it, or whatever, but pressure was brought to bear from the woke left, and whoever had the power to stop it did stop it. Now, the thing about it is this. Nobody should be surprised at this. I'm a long time on my videos here and on other areas warning about meetings, public meetings. There's usually a spy at every meeting. There's usually someone who is really representing the establishment and the status quo. And they're there. And if you don't take account of them, you'll fail. One of the examples is the pylons and the wind farms. In some of the groups I went to, I could see they weren't prepared to tackle the thing the way I wanted. And in other areas, they did. The SCA directive being one. In one particular group, there was a great lassie there, and they let her at it, and she listened to me, and we went out for a meal, and we consulted with each other and got it right. And she went ahead with that, and she got barristers to do it. But when presented with the SCA directive in the courts, Bord Pleanála withdrew because they didn't want a record made that the SCA directive was the law. So we won that case, and we're back. They're coming back again. We'll deal with that in another day. So in that case, the people in the committee were genuine. In the case of others, they're not genuine. In another case, a man rang me and appealed to me to stop campaigning after inviting me to a meeting held where people from Northern Ireland and everywhere arrived. The whole thing was rigged, and when I went to speak, I was confined to 8 minutes. So that'll tell you. So this is the way everywhere. Now, I'm not casting any aspersions, is that the word, on the owners of the hall. I know nothing about them. I was a guard one time stationed in Dowra in West Cavan, and I know the country fairly well. I would have caught a good lot of fish and done some hunting over there, and often done some drinking with the locals, and they were great people, I must say. So the hall was cancelled. Okay? Now, that should not have been a surprise. When you're doing an event like that, You must nail down the premises. You need a contract. You need to be sure whoever is in a position to stop it cannot, because they'll say, oh no, you can go ahead. And when they get the phone calls, they'll pull the plug. You got to have them that they're squirming that they can't pull the plug. If you don't have that, you will fail. And that's what happened in Drumshanbo. Now, that's enough of that. I hope Mise Eire come again somewhere else and somebody will give them a premises or whatever. That's a matter I have no control over. Now, just to finish off here, and that's a 5-minute video, another 2 minutes. You see, I was looking there at a case in England where a man was coming home from his allotment growing cabbages and onions. And he was arrested by the police for having a hose and instruments for growing vegetables. Now, that man took a caution because he had no way of knowing what to do. The other problem is that if any of the people watching me take on the state or take on the guards or take on anyone, and someone asked me there about how to deal with the guards, this is extremely complex. They're not lawyers. Now, supposing Mary Jane Riley does something and the Garda or the state or some way issues her with a summons, what option has she? She has to go to a solicitor. About 75% of solicitors are genuine. Some of them are very genuine. Some of them have done bits of work for me to help out people in trouble. So you can't paint them all with the one brush. But there are some who are either lazy or corrupt. And I have taken on some of those in cases I cannot mention and beat them. And beat them. And they didn't like it. Moreover, when I was a policeman, I was dealing nearly all in criminal cases, some civil cases, and I always was testing out the legal teams, the barristers and the senior counsels. And sometimes they'd be right, but occasionally I would beat them in the witness box. And they didn't like it, but sometimes they'd be right. There was a junior counsel one time said I was the bane of their lives because I thought differently. I knew the law. Now, if I find myself being prosecuted for anything, I'm capable of defending myself. I know the law inside out. So I don't have to walk up the street into the solicitor and say, and queue for 10 minutes. He'll be with you soon. And go in, right, we'll get counsel's opinion. And so they get counsel's opinion. And the counsel writes back and says, this blah, 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 blah. And maybe he decides to defend it. He appears to me in court. They're cheap sitting and dear standing. Some of them are 500 an hour in court. Now, and that's 2 years ago, it's more now. So the next thing you go into the court and they say, look at Val, you have a few points there, but I don't think they'll work. I suggest you plead guilty, or I suggest you concede. And therefore, I have a barrister that if I tell him no, does not have his heart in the case and maybe is not competent to deal with it. I'm unique. I stuck the High Court against 7 barristers in the Pylon case. And if the judge had to give a fair judgment, I'd have won. But my problem was I hadn't the resources to appeal. And several similar appeals since have worked. So the thing is, I'm able to defend myself. Very few others are, and I don't have the time to go with them. There was one family having part of their land taken away from them by squatters' rights. They hadn't a Rex. And I took a bit of pity on them, and I had to go way over to a court and work it out for them. And eventually the young barrister said, I don't know why I'm employed. This case is obviously in favour of my people. And eventually it was settled. But then I was able to draw up an agreement. The court did say, can we get an agreement? There was some bit of a ditch or something. And I was able to draw up the agreement in writing and get it signed there and then. So it's not everyone's capable of doing that. And I certainly cannot do that. I have a farm to run. I'm now becoming a mature citizen. I have my hobbies and I cannot devote time to that. A judicial review in the basic High Court for me is 17 days in the High Court. In Dublin, not in the High Court. 17 days lodging the documents and getting all stamped. Going to Commissioner for Oaths and everything. It's 17 days. Solicitors have what they call divils, young lads or young girls, to do that. And you have to drive up and down or get a taxi up and down. 17 days. There's only 365 days in the year. So this is the problem. So this is where they win. And I make my legal videos to try to advise people, and I emphasize that I can't take liability for it. A basic course in law is 4 years. I had 32 years in the Guards learning the law. So my education in law is about 40 years. You can't really replicate that. And it's one of the good things that developed from my joining the Garda Síochána. People say, you're the Queen's man. You're all corrupt. I wouldn't trust any of us. I don't give a ball of blue who the hell you trust. I'm not in the least bit interested. But that is a benefit from that mixing it with people that I wouldn't have if I had to follow my main passion, which was engineering, mechanical and electrical engineering. You wouldn't gain that experience. So that's why I'm sort of unique like that. It hasn't made me very rich or anything like that, but in other ways I apply other things that do all right. So the thing about it is, do you understand the situation? The law in Ireland is highly complex. It's highly complex in Britain. The fella that's charged with having the gardening tools, which are deemed to be knives, there may be law there, but then there are overriding constitutional provisions that enable you to earn a living. And so if they ban my tractor, I could take a case in the High Court that they're blocking me earning a living under the Constitution. You need to be up for that. When you go into barristers that don't want to know. And if I took on a case here on the wind farms or the pylons, I'd have to study hard for 3 months. Meanwhile, I'm not enjoying myself doing the things I like doing. I'd have to study it. When I go up to the court, the original judge would throw it out. They'd put a dopey old devil that's constantly doing divorce laws, and they put him into environment when they see me coming. For a big barrister, they give him one of the good ones. But for the farmer coming up with cows, any old dopey lad'll do. So you get your judgment there, which will be against you, and then you appeal to the Court of Appeal. And that has happened in a few cases I mentioned recently. You have to be prepared to go the whole hog. And in the Supreme Court in Ireland, the judges are no further. They can't go any further. And so they have a wee bit up to now of self-esteem, and they say, well, we have to go with the law. And if they don't go with the law, then the law is brought into disrepute. So you see what I'm saying to you about how you deal with these things. And the law changes. For example, the Road Traffic Act gives the Guard authority to order people about where there's an event causing a lot of traffic and a huge gathering of people. They can tell you to move your car. They can't tell you to move yourself. So you want to have the vehicles parked away from it and get buses or whatever put in. If you drive right up, you must get that out of here, and you're obliged under the Road Traffic Act to do it. I saw it tested where a person would not move the car and was convicted in court. So get the cars out of the way. When you're on foot or on a bike, you have no law. With a car or a motorcycle, there's about 5 million pages of law and precedent and everything else. If not 5 million, well, there's 2 million. That's still a lot. When you're on your feet, there's very little. There's just breach of the peace, conduct likely to lead to a breach of the peace. And all that can be done with you there is brought to court, and you can be ordered to sign a bond, and you can say, Judge, I want the Guard. What did I do, Guard? Are you capable of asking the Guard, explain what I did wrong? You'll find he won't do it. You'll find when he knows you're going to do that, he'll back down. That's the way it is. It's not that all Guards are corrupt, but they just want to get on with it, and their superintendent is telling them, them right-wing extremists like Val Martin, you gotta put the lights out. I've been there, done all this. I get a pleasure or a sort of an adrenaline rush from taking on all this and being in the court, and even with the judge kind of wrapping him around my finger, catching him out. I was only under pressure in the witness box once. I was in the circuit court in a case where a guy was pleading guilty, and the night before one of my colleagues retired and we had a feed a drink, and I was in the witness box and I was damn near throwing up. If you're a guard or anyone else, do not drink before you're going into the witness box. Be sober and correct and have your wits about you. That's the one bit of advice I would give. It was just unfortunate that the man retired the day before and I had the case the following day. Anyway, that won't be happening again. It's a warning to any guard watching. Keep off the booze the night before or for a week before. Have a clear head. So anyway, the point about it is the law is still there. The law is not adequate to catch me. The law may be adequate to catch an ordinary guy. But when it comes to Val, they have to make laws, and so they're doing hate speech laws. So they would have the hate speech law in now, were it not for the fact that I'm very likely to study it minutely, study the precedents, and then utter a statement online so that they come and prosecute me. When they come to prosecute me, the fireworks will start, and we'll be going through it like a fine comb. Meanwhile, my neighbours only a couple of miles up the road vote for Helen McEntee that wants to put me in jail. So as I drive up to defend myself, I'll be driving through their areas, and if I win, I'll be beeping the horn the next night to upset them. They shouldn't vote for woke TDs, but they do. We'll get at them some other way. So now, have I made that clear? The incident on Drumshanbo with Mise Eire should be held again, but do your homework. I could have told you a month ago, if you book a premises, get it done in such a way that it can't be wriggled out of. Have it a contract, pay €50 for the place. Get it written down. We agree that under no circumstances will this be pulled or will this be cancelled. Signed. And also, if it is cancelled, we agree to pay €50,000 to a named person. And then, when he is called by the woke crowd, he can say to them, well, I've committed to 50,000, you'll have to give me 60,000 in cash so that I can pay him and have 10,000 for myself, and that'll soon soften our cough. These people are all on a bluff. You saw Ursula on the line of the European Union go over with her begging bowl to Trump in his private resort, and he wiped the floor on her. They have nothing when you confront them. They're ultimately bullies. I hope that covers this thing about Mise Eire. I hope people begin to see that what I'm telling you is the truth. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. Hold your events. Have a few pubs guaranteed. See will they do it. Tell them they're going to be rang. Tell them they're going to be, you need a man that'll thump them, and I'll not give up. I'll let you do it. Then put it round not to go to, if the pubs don't want it on, put it round that they're not to go there, that they're woke. You can't be convicted in a court, and this is another important thing. I'm doing stuff to people here every day. Why don't they sue me? Again, the trouble is, if an ordinary man is sued, or woman, he doesn't know what to do. I knew a county councillor somewhere whom an old, poor old misfortunate fella let in another guy, a Fianna Fáil man, a bit of a down and out. They had a row with the wife and they had a few drinks in the house, and the poor old devil said something against the councillor. The councillor claimed it was actionable, which I don't think it was. Your man went down to the councillor and told him what he said, and the councillor wrote it down. The councillor sued him. The man came to me. I hadn't time, it was too far away. So I advised him what to do. But in the end of the day, he was forced with getting a solicitor. Where was he going to get the solicitor? He was forced to get a barrister. It was totally out of his depth. Where all he had to do, if it was me, is bring it on, have a happy Christmas, and then the crack would start. I am constantly going up to the brim here. I'm taking the good name of every villain of a TD and a senator, a crowd of dirty hooers is all they are. And I'm doing it here gladly, and they're not suing me, because their barrister will tell them this fella's no cod. I'm very unusual that way. I also get a thrill from it. I get a buzz from it. It makes life worth living. Confronting them and proving them wrong and beating them. And I stood for election, and 1,500 people agreed with me. But then there was other idiots that couldn't count, or idiots going up for election as well. I should have got 3,000 if they had a stayed to hell at home, a crowd of dumbbells, thinking they were going to get elected because the people was revolted by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Sinn Féin. Took votes off me. But the point is, not enough of people voted. And I make the point, a man down in West Monaghan, I got him brought into the polling station, and he went in and he was illiterate, and the man went in with him on my side, and when he went in he voted for me, and then he voted for Niamh Smith. So, and he wouldn't have been in at all only for me. So this is what you're up against. This is what you're up against. Folks, we'll see you back for something else. Oh Lord, wouldn't I love to be above? And if I was above, I wouldn't put on a tie. I'd wear a suit, all right. You have to respect the court. But I'd be all dramatic. I'd dramatise it. I'd be big, long dramatising. I'd have them there, big barristers, and as I do often say, bellies on them like harvest frogs. I said one day, you weren't fed in our house. He was giving out to me about something. I said, you weren't fed in our house. In other words, there wouldn't be enough to put a belly like that on you. Now, I apologise to people who are a bit overweight, and I don't like to be condescending to people. But that's the way with me. What you see is what you get. It's very hard to penetrate my thick skull, very hard. And I won't last forever. I'd love to be able to pass on some of this wit and some of this knowledge to other people. I gathered some of it up from neighbours and friends long ago, and from reading and reading. We can do no more. That's my take on the Drumshanbo event. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. But isn't it some shame that in Ireland, that we are not allowed to celebrate our culture? And Micheál Martin, I don't know what's that other Duracell buddy Simon Harris had, he had recently attended an event for Daniel O'Connell. It is absolutely disgusting that dirty, sleeving wimp from, is it down in Cross or somewhere, some Cross, Swan's Cross, is it in Cork? That fella. He's just an old beggar, an inferiority complex the size of a tar barrel, should attend a function for Daniel O'Connell. It is sad that that's what the democracy Daniel O'Connell dreamed of. Daniel O'Connell was a Catholic Irish patriot, but he was more or less, for Wolfe Tone, he would have agreed that Catholic, Protestant, Jew and dissenter should be treated equally, which they are under our constitution. But Daniel O'Connell was a great statesman, very intelligent person. He was nearly as intelligent as me in many ways. Not just quite, but the thing is, to think that them dirty hooers from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Sinn Féin should emulate or propose to admire Daniel O'Connell is a sickening thing. It's a sickening thing to witness. 23 minutes, folks. I didn't get too excited. We'll see you back. I know there'll be great comments. And don't forget, the comments on my channel are as good as mine, because we're hearing stuff. We're learning bits of stuff from it. Good luck. Thank you very much.